Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr.Doujinshi, and welcome back to another episode of Hentai Reviews, the only series where we truly believe that no matter how I'm not gonna say that this early in the video, sexy anybody looks, if you put on the opposite gender's clothing, you can look 10 times better. If you don't believe me, you're lying and you haven't been exposed to what I've been exposed to. Women in suits, peak fashion. Men in skirts and dresses, peak fashion. You want to know why the Scottish don't go to war anymore? Because they're afraid, because everybody's afraid to fight them. They have what no one else has. The titanium nuts to wear skirts to war. This was a weird intro. I'm going to go ahead and admit that. You see, today we're going to be reviewing episode 3 of a series that is a bit weird and just straight up, I can't figure out a good way to describe it other than guy who is well dressed and girl who is a bunny essentially going through a fever dream of reused assets, one-off characters, and horse shit. So I'm going to go ahead and shut up and get straight into episode 3. You see, today we're going to be reviewing episode 3 of Usamimi Bouken-Tan. There is a longer name for it. Shut up, I'm not going to say it because, oh my god, why do the Japanese constantly make long titles? I know sometimes Americans have long-ass titles, but on one hand, I'm not even going to try to think of an example. On the other hand, America has stuff like Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. Like, at least that's just a shit ton of adjectives all put together, and then, like, one thing at the end with, like, at least you can figure it out. That's just a sentence. That being said, let's just get into the details of this one, because there's something interesting I wanted to point out. You see, our series itself, it runs at about 16 minutes and 41 seconds. Relatively short overall. Oh, but nothing out of the new, with a total of 8 categories, notable of which are fantasy, plot, and big booba. And, interestingly enough, it's done by what at least was listed on the website as Magin label, which is different from what originally it was, saying that, at least from my memory, it was Majin Petite that made them, unless they've rebranded, which, as of recently checking, they haven't. But this one was actually made by a different company, which I don't want to blame on this episode itself, but let's just get into it. You see, Usamimi Bouken-Tan, episode 3, begins with our main characters leaving the ruins of which they had originally had, and also meeting up with and getting directions from the succubus from episode 1, who showed up, did nothing, and then peaced out. To which case, they then get a ride out from a person that they had run into. A random girl, don't worry about her, she's not plot relevant. I may be lying about that, but you want to know what I don't lie about? These thighs. If this camera went down a little bit further, that joke would be a lot funnier. That being said, immediately when they're going on that ride, the girl kind of looks over at the main character, looks at the rabbit girl, and says, "I think you know what you need," and then hands him a very, sexy costume, which is definitely not meant for sexy time. But then again, if you're a cosplayer, you are able to access things that I don't know exist on this world. The people who do cosplay professionally, you are the MVPs of the entire world. And to the people who do that and then make NSFW accounts, you are... I don't know what GOAT stands for, but that's them. I do know what GOAT stands for. That being said, immediately after that, they kind of just decide, you know what, we're going to go back to our place, we're going to figure this out, we're going to see what our next step is, because we need to figure some stuff out. It's been a weird trip. So they go back to their house, which they don't say is their house, they go to a new town, to which case there is a new house, but it's the same house from the last 2 episodes. I don't know if they're running out of budget or they needed to, so they go to the same looking house. It looks like a boarding house or a place where you put cows. Like, it almost looks like a stable. They go in there, they get in there, and then the guy says, he doesn't say anything, he just says, and that's it. To which case the girl is like, you want me to put on a strip show or at least any sort of like dance with this clothing on? And he's like, And I don't know what sign language this dude's got going, but like, he's got game, apparently. That being said, she puts on a little bit of a show for him in this sexy outfit, to which case afterwards they get into scene number 1, unfortunately, of the whole thing. There's only one scene in this whole thing, and I kind of wish there were more, because this series wasn't the best when it came to plot, but it's not great this time. You see, scene number 1, it starts at 3 minutes and 20 seconds and goes all the way to 4 minutes and 55 seconds. A minute and 35, and that is calling it loosely. And that's it. You see, when you have 16 minutes and 41 seconds to work with, you can be like our last example, which was a bunch of elves and a dude who could mind control, taking up the screen as much as possible. In this, unfortunately, it's a lot of wasted space. That being said, I'm not going to say that this was bad. I'm just going to say that, like, if you're going for, like, sexy dancing to then precede the actual scene itself, may I suggest more porn star dancing and less, like, burlesque. Because on one hand, you can get everybody going. On the other hand, it's a little outdated. Like, you may have turned some people on back then. Unfortunately, yeah. Sad times all around, but don't worry. You see, after this little scene that they've got going on, they then leave and then go on for what they think is they're going to go find that knight from the first 2 episodes who tried to kill them but ended up losing it a few different times. To which case they go out, and I don't really 100% remember if they find her or not, but they go out and they end up finding a girl who is the same girl from the wagon. They're like, hey, I remember you, and she's fighting orcs. You know, the series where everybody has been doing nothing but trivia? Yeah, she's actually sword fighting, or like throwing shit around and sword fighting orcs. In the middle of town, in front of a bar. I don't know what they did. I don't know what she did. One of them didn't pay their tab, and either they're just like people who own the bar being like, just pay the fucking tab. And she's over there like, well, no. Be ungovernable. It's a thing now. You see, what happens is they go into the fight. The main character is like, hey, I got you. When she falls back and then just like grabs her straight at the boot, like figuring out the measurements, 45 centimeters. I don't know. He's just figuring shit out the whole time while she is beating the orcs. To which case she ends up beating them and getting everything set to, and then they go on a date. For some reason, I don't like walk up to some dude and be like, hey, and then we kind of go out. That's a good way to get punched in the throat. That being said, they go on their date. She gives a little bit of a rundown on who she is and what she is kind of there for. Her actually being a knight in kind of a secret scenario. To which case, they then figure out, hey, we actually have a goal now because she has led us to the place that we're supposed to go. They then head out and then go into this area that she had specified because that would be the end of their journey. They go out and end up finding this area, and then what can only be set as random coincidence, they run into the knight from before. You see, they run into her. She gives out a little bit of a quiz battle. We all know how this ends. The main dude is a thesaurus. He's a thesaurus when it comes to pretty much anything and any term in the world, and is an almanac when there's no need for any more form of word poetry. And then ends up beating her. He walks up and she's like, slay me now. And she just gives her a hug, and then kind of walks past her. To which case, he ends up running into the girl from before, who is actually secretly a knight, and is apparently the guardian of the Matrix. Because I wrote down in the script, right over there, that she gives a Matrix-style, like, rundown on the whole thing. A Matrix-style, like, lore dump. And when I say Matrix style, I don't mean like one dude in the middle of a white room, bunch of screens, and saying different 4-syllable terms that all essentially mean you don't know what's going on and we don't, so we're trying to confuse you. That being said, she essentially tells them that they are in the Matrix. This is a simulation. Everything going on is a simulation. The dude who's running the simulation is up there if you can beat me. To which case, he's like, got nothing else to do. And then they fight and kind of go at it in like an actual fight. And then when blow comes to blow, the dude ends up winning and just says, well, guess I'm gonna go shut down the Matrix. And then goes up, episode's over. Nothing, that's it. Episode's over. So I guess, let's get into the rest of it. Why don't we? You know, I started this channel out with the idea that it would be really deep voice, sultry sort of statements made by a man who is a part of the finer cultures of the world, the NSFWs. But now I realize my voice is a lot higher most of the time because I'm trying to get out goofy stuff a lot, because porn can have some of the goofiest terms you've ever heard. That being said, let's talk about animation. Animation in this is, it's okay. It's nothing good. Like, this is middle of the road. There's nothing great going on. There's no, like, high points. There's no low points. It's, like, a flat, like, across the board. Nothing huge, but also, like, nothing great. It's a 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10. I think there's not really much I can say about 5 out of 10s. Like, they're passable. They're not horrible. Like, when something is a 3 or an 8, that means it was awesome or fun to watch because of how bad it was. You've seen Queen Bee. You know what a 3 out of 10 looks like. That being said, it's pretty bland actually. So let's get into characters and story. Characters and story in this was kind of a letdown because this is batshit in a lot of different ways. This was a fantasy area where a silent protagonist, his bunny girl friend, end up running into knights who want to murder him for some reason. And I'm pretty sure there was a dude named Banana Oil in the first episode, which was so fucking long ago because goddamn, my break took forever. That being said, there's not really any of that goofiness here. It's really fun watching the characters, and 16 minutes of horse shit is still 16 minutes of just what's going on? I don't know. That being said, there's not really anything big. This is a fun story. But there's not, like, there's a special sauce missing. Like, the body's there. The soul isn't. It could be what it was originally. But I feel like there needs to be the 4th episode where they just shove that budget in. Like, it doesn't matter if there's not any sex scenes in the next one, which I kind of hope there would be. But I really want it to be like that. I want that coup de grace. But this one wasn't it. Still fun. Not great. 7 out of 10. I know it makes it sound like I'm being harsh on it, but this is the series where you watch it for the goofy shit rather than the plot. This is not one of those ones. It's 7 out of 10. It's better than average because it's funny and it's goofy and it's stupid. 7 out of 10. Now what we're all really here for, the plot. You see, the plot, there's one of it, and it takes up about a little less than 10% of the whole thing. Like a minute and 35 seconds. That's less than 10%. It's closer to like 8% of it. And it's not great. Like, if the animation was higher, it would have been good. Like, I rated this a 5 out of 10 because it's only 1. Which is really all you need. And the characters are like, at least the characters are hot. If all the characters were like ugly or they were like bland as fuck and you didn't want to see them in any sort of sexual way, which is a weird thing to do when you come into like a hentai, but this wasn't great. One scene, I like the stripper aspect in the beginning of it because like people who know how to like properly put on like shows beforehand are like, they're the backbone of like, if you are kinky, that's where you start. That's the backbone of the whole damn thing. And something I really hope I can get good at least someday. I don't even have a poll anywhere, but fuck, that is something that people need to learn. Like, there's movement in there, but damn. 5 out of 10. I would recommend experiencing it for yourself. Not because there's anything big, but I feel like people would feel the same way that I feel if they experienced it. Like, it's nothing great, but I feel like doing it justice isn't really something that words can do. So 5 out of 10 for that. Averaging the scores together, you create a 6 out of 10. Sadly, this is not the best episode. It is not as goofy as the rest. It's not as over the top, and it's not as hot as the rest. Unfortunately, 6 out of 10. Hopefully the next episode, which I'm assuming is going to be the last, can, like, give that last, like, uppercut that knocks out the other contestant, and then the dude can win by just being the last one standing. But damn, this one was a little bit of a letdown. 6 out of 10, a little above average because of the story and how dumb it is, but yeah, sad. That being said, I'm gonna lighten the fuck up, and I'm gonna go ahead and end the episode because, oh my god, getting back into this is a little tough. I get home at like 11 from my job, and then I have to film these sorts of things, and hopefully I've gotten a ton of stuff all set up. So I guess I'll see you guys later. I'm gonna go get to editing. Thank everybody for being here. It blows my mind every single time I look into this camera and think, this shitty little $60 camera is currently being streamed to more people than I have friends on Facebook, and I don't even use Facebook anymore. I don't have this many Twitter followers. If I took my Twitter followers, my Facebook friends, Instagram, all that shit, put them together, wouldn't have this much. My school is almost, my high school that I went to is almost as big as my subscriber count, which is fucking nuts. That being said, I'm gonna go ahead and end it here because it's running at about 17 minutes, and when the review is almost as long as the actual series, that's bad. So I'm gonna cut it here. Thank you everybody for being here. Every one of you is in my heart. Thank you, each and every one of you. And remember, have a nice day. Don't be a dick. There's too many of them. And wash your fucking hands. I've been the doctor. Peace.